All empires swear their money is safe. Every government claims its promises will last forever, and history proves them wrong every single time. Welcome to the Economic Historian YouTube channel. I'm here to help you see the history of money from a different perspective. Enjoy. From Rome to France, from the Confederacy to modern Lebanon, people have woken up to discover their savings were worthless, their salaries meaningless, and their futures taken by systems they believed were secure. Collapse should not be seen as a rare possibility. Collapse is a law. The real question is not whether financial systems will fail, but how you will protect yourself when they do. The illusion of permanence is the most dangerous financial mistake. We look at our bank accounts and currencies and assume they are solid like metal. But money is not metal. It is trust, and trust can disappear in an instant. That is why history is both ruthless and valuable. Every collapse leaves behind lessons, patterns, and warnings. What truly preserves wealth? If you pay attention, you will notice something important. Those who survive these collapses are not the ones who trusted the most, but the ones who questioned first. Take the Byzantine Empire, for example. After the fall of the Western Roman Empire, the Eastern Roman Empire survived for another 1,000 years. At the center of its economy stood the gold solidus. It was so trusted that merchants across Europe, the Middle East, and Asia accepted it without hesitation. For centuries, it functioned as the closest thing to a global reserve currency in the medieval world. They should have learned from Rome's earlier disaster, when the silver denarius was repeatedly debased by emperors until it became little more than silver-plated metal. I explained that story in detail in a previous video, but they did not learn. Centuries later, Byzantium made the same mistake, this time with gold. They reduced its purity. They mixed it with cheaper alloys. At first, no one noticed. Then trust shattered. The currency that once sustained Mediterranean trade became a political illusion. Debasement destroyed credibility, and the Byzantine economy lost its stability. What endured? Not written promises, not imperial decrees. The wealth that survived belonged to merchants who held real gold or land beyond the empire's reach. Everyone else watched their money erode. The first timeless lesson is this: states cannot resist the temptation to dilute money, and when they do, real value concentrates in assets that cannot be easily replicated. But not every collapse comes from rulers manipulating currency. Sometimes an unexpected shock arrives. In the mid-14th century, Europe was struck by the most devastating disease in its history, the Black Death. Between 1347 and 1351, nearly half of Europe's population died. Cities were abandoned, villages collapsed, trade routes disappeared. But the economic story was not only one of catastrophe. When nearly half the labor force vanishes, labor becomes more valuable. Survivors could demand higher wages. Food and land became abundant relative to people. Families with liquidity, silver, goods, or simply opportunity gained bargaining power beyond imagination. Land that was once priceless sold for a fraction of its value. Houses stood empty. Fields went untended. Survivors found themselves in a buyer's market. If this sounds familiar, it should. During the COVID pandemic, we witnessed a modern version. Supply chains fractured. Governments spent trillions to keep systems alive. Those with liquidity accumulated assets, while those living paycheck to paycheck struggled. In the United States, housing prices soared. Stock markets climbed rapidly. Millions wondered how they would afford rent. Pandemics redistribute wealth. They always have. During the Black Death, survivors leveraged scarcity. During COVID, those with capital accumulated property, stocks, and businesses. The lesson is uncomfortable but true. Crises reward those with capital and erase those without it. We have seen how pandemics reshape economies. Now let's examine banking collapse. In the 1340s, Florence was Europe's financial capital. Powerful banking families like the Bardi and Peruzzi dominated the system. They lent massive sums to monarchs, most disastrously to King Edward III of England, who defaulted on his debts during his wars with France. When payments stopped, the banks collapsed. Depositors were ruined. Trade froze. Florence fell into crisis. The lesson was clear. Too big to fail is an illusion. Institutions exist for profit, not protection. When they fall, They take your savings with them. We saw this again in 2008 with the collapse of Lehman Brothers. We saw it in 2019 when Lebanese banks froze accounts. The American Civil War was also a financial war. Both the Union and the Confederacy printed money. The North issued greenbacks, not backed by gold. Inflation rose. The South went further. Graybacks were printed uncontrollably. Inflation reached thousands of %. Salaries could no longer buy bread. By 1865, Confederate currency had no future. What held value was not paper, but land, food, and gold. During the French Revolution in the 1790s, paper money called assignats followed the same path. Initially backed by church lands, excessive printing shattered confidence. Prices spiraled. People demanded silver or goods. Paper collapsed. In 1997, the Asian financial crisis erupted. Thailand's baht collapsed. Dollar-denominated debts became unbearable. Indonesia, Malaysia, and South Korea were hit. Those who relied solely on local currency suffered most. Those with dollars or foreign reserves were less exposed. The lesson was simple. Borrowing in someone else's currency is a trap. And one of the most recent examples is Lebanon. Between 2019 and 2021, banks locked their doors. Deposits were frozen. The Lebanese pound lost more than 90% of its value. People could not access their own money. Who was protected? Those who diversified assets, held gold or property, and kept wealth outside the banking system. The conclusion is clear. Collapse is both tragedy and opportunity. For the unprepared, it is devastation. For the prepared, it is a moment to accumulate assets at distressed prices. But wealth is not only what you own. It is also what you can do. The baker who can make bread. The craftsman who can repair tools. The farmer who can feed a community. The trader who can move goods across borders. In every crisis, money may lose meaning, but production never does. Real protection lies in non-replicable assets, real skills, and awareness that illusions eventually collapse. Every crisis is a transfer from the trusting majority to the prepared minority, from paper promises to tangible value, from passive savers to active producers. The question is never whether collapse will happen. It always does. The question is which side you will be on. Will you hold the promises of the losing side, or something real that the winning side accumulates? History does not repeat itself exactly, but if you ignore it, it will crush you in similar ways. If this gave you a new perspective, consider subscribing. History has answers. I'll show you where to look.